Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, viewers of My Media Prime Television. You're welcome to Yaoundé. This is your favorite news program, 90 Minutes in Africa. We are broadcasting from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, in Central Africa. In today's edition of the program, 90 Minutes in Africa, we are going to be taking a look at this topic, football-related altercations. A threat to African unity. Of course, this topic has been inspired by the recent clash between the president of Cameroon's Football Federation and an Algerian YouTuber, which went viral online at a time when football is supposed to be a unifying factor. There are fears that if this is not handled, the situation could degenerate into something else in the days ahead. And with me in the studio to analyze this topic, of course, in the first part, we are going to analyze some latest news happenings by taking a look at some latest news happenings this week in Africa, and of course to begin by taking a look at Morocco's match today against Portugal as they try to see if they would be the first African team to qualify for the semi-final in the World Cup competition. And my guests are already with me in the studio. I want to use the opportunity to welcome Nsah, who is our analyst here. Welcome to the program, Nsah.
Thank you very much, Elvis. It's been a pleasure for me once more today being set to talk about topical issues. And I think that the viewers out there, by the end of the program, they must have learned something.
Thank you. Of course, on my left here is a senior international journalist, Ngantcha. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Elvis. It's a pleasure to be here. It's the first time I'm coming here, actually. I've always watched this channel, and especially this program, and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Ngantcha. And of course, Guardian Post sports editor and senior journalist, Derek. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Bo Elvis. I'm equally excited to be part of the panel this afternoon. It's equally my first time on the show, and I hope that maybe what we're going to discuss here will help shape public opinion about how football should be more of a unifying factor than a dividing factor.
Before we get into football, of course, as you must have noticed, ladies and gentlemen, in the course of the past 1 month or so, we've not taken a look at some other topical issues because, as you know, when the World Cup is going on, people are so much concerned about the performance of African teams. And I think after the World Cup, we are going to come back to talk about other issues that affect Africa. But that doesn't mean that we have not been keeping an eye on happenings across the continent. And of course, in the course of this week, as you must have heard, protesters in South Sudan have been demanding that the army should leave power, as the protesters are rejecting a deal between the military and civilians, and they have gone right to the point of firing tear gas at civilians to disperse them. Your reaction, any reaction to that, Nsah?
Yes, normally, you see, I want to say, start by doing a comparison between Anglophone Africa, English-speaking Africa, and Francophone, that's French-speaking Africa. The systems of governance are different. Different in the sense that if we want to look at democracy, how it is being applied in Francophone African states, there is some degree of democracy which is being practiced in Anglophone African countries in governance. I want to think about South Africa. I think last week we were talking about Cedrick Ramaphosa here, who risked impeachment. You hardly hear that in Francophone African countries. Yes, because you see, it shows you that there is a disparity between these two things. Coming back to the case in point, I want to say the Sudanese, they are very right. You know, any government that is military ruled, the military, they have their way of doing things. Either they are coming up very powerfully using the arm, they talk with some authority, they don't negotiate. That is one of the things. Apparently the people have discovered that they are not willing to relinquish power, and they rather prefer that they need a civilian dictator than a military dictator. That's why you see the people, they say, oh, enough is enough with this military rule. This goes about, you know, today we're celebrating human rights, this International Human Rights Day. This goes along to say that human rights, which are inalienable, are the rights of freedom of expression, freedom of speech, movement, and all the like. There are just too many. If they have been infringed by the military rule in that country, there is every reason for the civilians to rise up and say, oh, enough is enough, we can no more take this, we better take the other option. Because you see, military and civilian rule, there is always a better option for any country. Nevertheless, I want to say that I think the time for military rule has revolved. Yes. Why? Because we know how the military act. Everything is power, 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 the barrel of the gun. Whereas when you have democracies, democratically elected governments, there is the rule of law. But with the military, I hardly see the rule of law prevail. So I think the people, they have a legitimate claim as per a return to civilian rule. Because if the military had to take power, it was maybe because the former president was there. You know, when you overstay in power, you go across the board. You're no more circumscribed in what power, excessive power, drunkenness. I think that had drunken the former leader, then the military stepped in. But now the people have maybe sized it up and discovered that no, they rather prefer a dictatorial civilian rule than a barrel of the gun military rule. I want to put it that way.
Thank you, Nsah Akufo. Let us get the reaction from Ngala Killian. I want Ngala Killian to react to the election of an 18-year-old black student, Jalen Smith, who has been elected the mayor of a small town in Arkansas in the United States. What can we learn from this election, especially here in Africa?
Well, I think the only new thing there is the age of the new mayor is not a first, because we already had a black president in the United States. So the only real news there is that it's a young man who probably went into politics following his dream and then got elected. And you are talking about lessons for Africa. We have zombies ruling us today. We have people who have stayed in power for years on end, and they are not willing to let go. Akufo was making reference to military rule. What happens when you have a civilian who has refused to let go through elections, for example? What usually happens is that the military takes over. The military comes in, takes over, and if it's a good military, they organize a transition to civilian rule. And that's exactly what's happening in Sudan. What is happening is that the military that took over in 2021, they're trying to transition to civilian rule. It's a process, and this process has actually been welcomed by the United Nations. So we are looking at a system where you have leaders who come up and then they just disparage all democratic principles. So much so that one professor actually came out with a book, Held Together by Pins, Liberal Democracy Under Siege in Africa. So we are seeing a system where democracy doesn't count anymore, where votes don't count. You are talking about this young mayor in the United States. It's because people's votes count. If you followed the midterm elections in the United States, you had people coming out and lining up for hours to cast their ballot, because they know that those ballots will count. But in Africa, in most elections, first of all, you are not free to vote. Even when you vote, your vote doesn't count, and when it's counted, it's not adequately reported.
So, Killian, I want you to react to the fact that in some African countries, the age for you to be able to vote is 20. But you find that in a country like the United States at 18, you're already a mayor. So should African countries review their laws?
Let's even talk about Cameroon, for example. I mean, let's localize it here. The voting age in Cameroon is 21. You see, but the age of maturity, the age where young people are expected to get married is 18. And I think the opposition in Cameroon has been saying that no, you can't be asking people to get majority at 18 and then you tell them that they have no right to decide what their future should become.
Which means that you can
it doesn't make sense
to babies when you don't have when you don't know how to defend.
That is it. You don't have the right to defend the rights of those babies. It doesn't just make sense.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now take this other story too about the South African government that has introduced a plan to indicate that prostitution should no longer be a crime in South Africa. The legislation has been presented by the Justice Department, and according to the Justice Minister, this decriminalization will reduce human rights violations. Then, Eric, I would like you to comment on that.
Before I go to South Africa, let me come a bit to the issue of African governments, maybe leaders staying long in power. Just this week, in neighboring Equatorial Guinea, the world's longest-serving president got another term. Another 7-year mandate. He's been on the seat as president of Equatorial Guinea since 1979, Teodoro Obiangema Bazogo, and he won that vote with over 94%. He won over 94% of the votes, and the U.S. and other Western governments have been, trying to it's not the votes, that 94% of the votes that he got is not really legitimate. And so that is what happens when we are in a continent where when someone gets to power, he wants to stay there for as long as possible. Killian, you bear with me that his son is the vice president of that country, and eventually maybe he's preparing his son to take over him when he leaves. Now,
that's happening in Chad.
Just like it happened in Chad, and it's something like this.
It's a new dawn.
It's a new dawn in the Central African sub-region, particularly. Yeah. Now, you talk about the South African government wanting to decriminalize prostitution. Oh, difficult one, you know. It's I may not really master that, but I don't think that that should be the right thing to do for me.
Okay.
Well, can I chip in something there?
Okay, chip in something.
I think if such a decision is taken in a state of law like South Africa, there'll be promiscuity. Yes, a lot of promiscuity. You saw when Minister Nalova signed the order authorizing pregnant girls to remain in school. I'm one of those who were too bitter about it. But the defense is that why should the girl be sent out of school and then the boy remains in school? So both remain in school. Well, people will see it from another angle, but for that decision, I still stand against it. It stigmatizes the child, and then it makes it that other girl children who are there, who are maybe flirtatious, they'll say, okay, if I'm heavy with child, nobody will send me home. Okay, being heavy with child is something good. Let's get back to the South African issue. South Africa is a big country, big because it has very many shades of opinions there. But when suddenly you begin to say you decriminalize prostitution, that is, it's just like you want to say you take people to do you encourage lesbianism. Yes, I want to put it on that same pedestal, if you permit. So there are some laws, and we know prostitution is one of the oldest professions. So now when you say you decriminalize it, God, it means the gates of hell are wide open, and people can just swim in. So it's too bad. Well, I just hope that the authorities along the line will maybe think about it again and see how they can. It's difficult, eh?
Yeah, I know. I mean, from a purely moral perspective, I will agree with what Ernest is saying. But when you look at the reasons why that law actually came, is being initiated, there is an epidemic in South Africa called femicide. Women are being killed on a daily basis. Women are being targeted and killed. There are statistics. I mean, more than 1,000 women killed between July and September. Between July and September.
Only in 1 year?
Yes, this year.
2022.
And then you have about 10,000 cases of rape within the same period. So the thinking from the point of view of the legislators is that if you decriminalize sex
and prostitution,
you are going to reduce the number of women who are being killed unjustly. That's
especially with the high rate of HIV infection too in South Africa.
And that is also going to, because when you make it legal to practice prostitution, what is going to happen is that the medical services and the military and the security services, they can now come in legally and begin to control that sector, and therefore those women will easily have access to health care. Because if they are operating in the shadows the way they are doing, what happens is that they will not have access to health care, they are not going to have access to security services, and so on and so forth. And I think that is extremely dangerous for those women.
I would like to also comment about whether this kind of law, decriminalizing prostitution, what it says about our values in Africa. I don't know whether the law is in line with our values in Africa.
Yes, I want to say, apparently with our fast-growing society, we're copying some things which are not in consonance with the African beliefs. Let me put it that way. Yes, because in Africa, we know that, or we have the tendency that promiscuity or prostitution is not permitted. People do it, but in hiding. But when you do it, that's why I talked of South Africa being a big society, because you see the Africans there, the Zulus,
the Boers,
yes. So when you look at it, I begin to ask myself, how can you suddenly want to transform a people who had a culture very fixed and identifiable? Now you want them to deviate from their original way of behaving, and well, it's a little sad.
Thank you, Nsah. Before I use the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, you're watching 90 Minutes in Africa. It is your Pan-African show that takes a look at happenings in Africa, or sometimes we take a look at how global issues affect our continent. And of course, with my guest today, before we get into the main topic, we are taking a look at some of the major news developments during the week. And we use the opportunity to welcome the Prince, Prince Edgard. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning to you, Mr. Bo Elvis. Good morning to the... good afternoon. Good afternoon to the other panelists. Good afternoon to the wonderful tele-viewers of my Media Prime. It's always a pleasure being on your platform. I want to, first of all, beg for excuse to the televiewers and maybe you coming late. It was not of my making. Health-wise, I'm not very sound. It's just that when you already have an engagement to give to the televiewers and you announce it already, you have the obligation to come, because many people will be like, and moreover, I had a problem of time because my phone got bad yesterday in the night.
Okay.
So with all that, but I believe that we'll do our best to also to share the panelists, maybe with great minds. I think it's a pleasure to be with the famous journalist, your colleague on the platform. I think it's the first time, so I think we'll make a wonderful debate. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Okay, thank you. Before we get into the topic of the day, our football-related altercations, a threat to African unity, let us, of course, talk about the news of the day. It is a football month, and Africa is still very much into the ongoing World Cup in Qatar, with Morocco representing Africa today. They'll be playing against Portugal in a do-or-die encounter, and as you know, Morocco is aiming for to become the first African team to reach the semi-finals of World Cup after Cameroon missed the opportunity in 1990, Senegal in 2002, and Ghana in 2010. And of course, it's a great day for Africa with Morocco still in the race. Your expectations, Derek.
Thank you very much, Bo Elvis. I think that it's competition. The World Cup in Qatar is a competition with a lot of surprises. And when you look at the build-up to the competition, you know, nobody saw an African team, or very few people saw even one African team going beyond the group stages of the competition. Many people were banging on Senegal. Yes, they crossed to the round of 16, but unfortunately they could not stand the heat against England. Morocco, whom all of us are looking up to today, they were the surprise package of their group. That's the team that came up from the group stage without a defeat. They played 3 matches, 2 wins and a draw, and they conceded just 1 goal in the group stage and went on to eliminate 2010 champions, Spain, in the round of 16. That was at the level of penalties. And they are today facing Portugal. Africans are hoping, but Africans in quote, why I say so, because there has been this debate on the social media that, you know, after the match against Spain, which Morocco won to qualify for the quarterfinals, the team captain dedicated the victory to Moroccans, and go to the Arab world, and did not talk about Africa. And Muslims. Yeah. But it was rather the coach who said, no, he has admired the support that Africans have given not only to Morocco, but to Senegal, to Cameroon, to Ghana. And so he is doing everything to fly the flag of Africa. And the player, I mean the team captain of Morocco who made that statement, who dedicated the victory to the Muslims, to the Arab world and to Morocco, came back to apologize for not mentioning Africa. And so some Africans, including some Cameroonians, are like, okay, today against Portugal, we're going to support Portugal, and if Portugal beats Morocco, we'll come back to apologize to Moroccans. But I'm not of that opinion. I think that if we have an African team which goes through to the last 4 of the competition, that is to reach the semi-finals at Morocco, I think I'll be very proud. Why not hope that Morocco goes right up to the final of the competition? I think globally this World Cup has a lot of lessons, and I should say that many of us did not see Cameroon, though the president of the Cameroon Football Federation, Samuel Eto'o, said they were going to Qatar to win the World Cup. We ended at the level of the group stage with a win, a defeat and a draw, which is the best we have had in 20 years. Because from 2002, we missed out 2006, when 2010 in South Africa was a debacle, 2014 in Brazil was the same thing, we missed out 2018 in Russia, we are back in 2022 in Qatar. But unfortunately, we did not go beyond the group phase of the competition, but at least we got 4 points out of 12. And
no, what happened yesterday when Brazil was eliminated?
Well, so many people, you know, supporters are from different axes. And so there were some Cameroonians who wanted Brazil to go through. There were some who did not want Brazil to go through because they have that impression that, okay, it's a Brazil that some people are saying we beat by the team B or the team C. It was not the A team of Brazil that we defeated 1-0 in the last group stage of the competition. That's what makes the competition very interesting. I think each of the African teams that went to Qatar this year came back with at least a victory out of their 3 matches.
I'll be coming back to you, Derek. Let me get to Prince Ejede to comment about the fact that were African teams, were African fans, right or wrong, to be concerned about a Moroccan player not appreciating African support during his post-match interview?
But this is a consequences of the division between the Maghrebians and those of the sub-Saharan Africa. It was the consequence of it. You know, I'm that type of a person that I don't always like to live in hypocrisy. Yes. it should be very clear. We should not be, because the captain of a national team is not anybody that is a captain of a national team. We saw a president of countries writing letters of encouragement to captains of national teams to tell you the position of a captain of a national team. So when the captain of a national team takes a stand and congratulates the Muslims, what was he referring to? He was like aligning himself to religion, to the Muslims and the Arab world. Who are the Muslims and the Arabs? We know very well that the Arabs are the same Muslims. That was what he was referring to. The problem is, even you look at when the coach comes back saying that he realized that the Africans were supporting Morocco. That is now it's because he realized that the Africans were behind Morocco. That is why he comes out to say like he should put the captain to the right track. That is hypocrisy. But that notwithstanding, Mr. Abo Elvis, I wish to say that we Cameroonians, especially Cameroonians, we are always being in support of our African teams. I want to see for example, like in the Tugebe that I live, I want to tell you the mobilization that was behind the Moroccan team when they were playing the match against Spain. The mobilization was huge. So it was with the outing of the captain. I said we received it with too much disappointment. So I believe that it's high time that those of the Maghrebian Africa, they should understand that those of the sub-Saharan Africa, they love them so much.
Killian Ngara Chimtom, don't you think this is don't you think this is an opportunity, of course, for the rest of Africa to show Morocco love? At a time when they show you hatred, show them love. Maybe that's going to correct the error.
I just hope that Morocco will have the winning mentality. In 1990, when Cameroon got to the quarterfinal, they thought that quarterfinal level was the best they could do, because Cameroon could jolly well have beaten England. I interviewed Jules Onana, and he told me that when they got to that quarterfinal, for them, they had done their World Cup. So they went in just to play for some kind of pleasure. That's what he told me. And I hope that Morocco knows that the continent is looking at them. Because Africa cannot continue to go to the World Cup believing that that World Cup belongs to some other people and not to Africa. I believe strongly that Morocco can beat Portugal today, because they've beaten better teams than Portugal during this World Cup. And they,
of course, they beat
that they have the best defense so far.
Of course.
Conceding only one goal. That is an achievement. That is something we should be looking at. And coming to your question about, I just hope that the captain simply misspoke because he came back to apologize. It's incredible. I mean, because whether it's an accident of geography, they are in Africa. I remember, I think it was Morocco that actually applied to join the European Union, and they were tensed down. They should understand that they are in Africa. It could be an accident of geography. You have to live with that fate.
Yeah.
So I believe the entire continent is behind Morocco, and I really hope they develop the winning mentality that has brought them this far, and they should believe in themselves that they can bring the cup, and they go.
I think, Mr. Boy, just to add, it's very important what
Killian.
Yes, Killian is saying, because the world itself is all about migrations. Absolutely. It's all about migrations. If you look at even the context, the geography of maybe Egypt today, maybe Sudan, you realize that most of us who found themselves in the sub-Saharan Africa, we migrated to the fruit of the river Nile, to make it wonderful. If you go and look at the great works of maybe Sheikh Anta Diop, in his thesis that he defended Nation, I'll call it in French, Nation Nègre et Culture, you realize that he demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt to show that the sub-Saharan Africans came from Egypt. From Egypt, and the original inhabitants of Egypt were blacks. Well, we have controversies because of that theory, but today other scholars have come. We had Abel Obenga and many other and great minds in Africa who came and demonstrated this fact. So if today geography is proven that because of migrations, maybe our brothers found themselves where they are today, I believe that we need to live as one and in unity. I believe that we even catapult us to the central topic of today, while we're looking at all these.
Exactly. And in terms of Akufo, of course, I don't understand. We have two legs. The Europeans have two legs, the Americans have two legs. What is limiting the mindset of African teams to always be like, okay, Africa cannot get to the semi-finals? Because even in the field of play I see, sometimes based on my own observations while watching this World Cup, I discovered that even sometimes we find that some African teams are even afraid to kick into the goalpost of the opponent. They're just playing around the ball.
Elvis, that's a keen observation. That observation is keen in the sense that I think this is equally one of the World Cups where history was created by the African countries, because the 5 teams who went to the World Cup went along with nationals as their head coaches.
Yeah.
It has been created. And then coming to your question proper, I want to think that we Africans, we always thinking of this inferiority complex palaver. Okay? We always think that color, the white color, dominates over us. Whereas, I want to say civilization started in Africa. True or false?
True. It is. It was proven.
Civilization started in Africa. Because when I see what the Moroccans are trying to do, they want to say they are not African. I am proud of my Africanness, my Cameroonness, my Awinjongness. Yes, because I don't see how you can dissociate.
And I'm not cutting you short, because we are also on an educative program. It's very important, because many people don't understand today in Africa what we mean by civilization. They think for us speaking English and French, it is that civilization.
No,
it's far from me. Exactly.
I mean, this is a colonial legacy. Something that, because I mean, when the white man came, he came with a certain baggage and imposed on Africans, and the feeling now is that if you don't copy what comes from there, you are not civilized.
Now, civilization was the capacity of the Africans to be able to develop their society politically, economically, and socially. That is the definition of civilization.
When you go to Fumban, the Fumban Palace,
I wanted to mention
King Joya actually invented a writing. I've been there. I saw birth certificates,
but now in Africa, if you
established by Joya,
if you speak our modern English,
you see, it takes me back memory lane. Far back, 78, 79, when we were in the primary, in the village, when you spoke the dialect in school, you were beaten up.
It was a crime.
But, it was a crime. But 30 years after, in schools, they want our children to speak the dialect. You see, it's paradoxical, okay? It's paradoxical. Because when I see the non-Africans saying that they are not Africans, I just laugh over it. It's just that small color that's making them think that they belong to another world. Whereas, when you even get to take it more practical, when you get to almost all of the teams, the majority of the teams at the World Cup, they have people with black skins, true or false. Which means that the black skin, let me put it that way, has something to offer. It's undisputable. But when I see people, they begin to say, no.
Mr. Akufo, you are even going too far. Look at a country like Brazil. Brazil is a pure country for us to demonstrate the quality of the African genealogy. Brazil, if for those who have even studied the culture, that is the history of culture, anthropology, that have gone deeper, you realize that if you look at the Brazilian culture, if you go to some typical areas of Brazil, you realize the Yoruba culture, which is still being practiced in some countries like in Brazil. So you see that Brazil being even the champion is as a result of the African gene. Yeah. Just to add from what they're saying, not making mention of maybe the African colors that we have. If you look at France today, it's really an African team. I saw somebody that was making a comparison.
So it means that. Do you agree with me that probably Kylian, it's an issue of mindset? Because the same players that we call, because there's some binationals that were supposed to play for France that play for African teams. Yeah. But the same players, when they're taken up to France to play with France, you see that the performance is better.
That's what mindset. I mean, yes, I would put it down to a mindset, because we go to these World Cups, we don't go to win, we go to participate, and I think that mindset should change. It should change. In 1990, Cameroon had the capacity to bring that World Cup here. Yeah. Because they had the quality that no other team had. But what happened along the way?
Because of inferiority, as you rightly said.
They didn't go to win.
I said it's complex.
They didn't go to win.
No.
Complex, good. Yes. You are delving into something which is following Cameroon at this moment, because look at the politics around the national team of Cameroon during this World Cup. There's been a lot of talk, and you ask yourself, when you see Tchouaméni, who plays at the midfield in France, when you see Mbappe, who currently tops the goal scoring chart for the World Cup in Qatar at the moment, he has Cameroonian background. If they were in Cameroon, would they have performed the same?
No.
The atmosphere in our national team is somehow polluted. Let me put it in quote.
Yeah.
Because Cameroon, though they struggled and got 4 points at this World Cup, if you read the scandals that are coming from within the team, the recent revelation from the French investigative journalists talking about players that paid some amount of money before they were selected to go to Qatar, though Fecafoot has come out to debunk that claim, and they are threatening court action. Now, when the national team coach, Rigobert Song released his list of 26 players to go to Qatar for those World Cup.
Did you say release or when the list was given to him?
Well, let me say he released because he is a team coach. Whatever politics happened behind it, I don't want to get into that. People question the appearance of some players in that team. And to me, as somebody who's been reporting sports for a number of years, they were right. Because when you look at what happened in some of our games in the World Cup, where we've had to use players, one midfielder, for example, who has played only 2 matches with his club in Germany for maybe since August, but he's selected over another player who has been constant with his team out there, and that player has been called up several times. You begin to ask questions why this player who is underperforming is called, why there is a more performing player who could be called in that position. That is what makes most of our binationals who are out there in different countries in Europe not thinking to return to the country, because
Embolo is the case at home.
Are they afraid of scandals?
Obviously, because take a minute. You see, I want to go on the Embolo case. If maybe he had not been a binational somewhere and he was somewhere lingering in Europe, because I want to buy his point where he said there are a lot of scandals in the national team. There are, because no matter what Fecafoot wants to debunk or what. Well, one thing which I don't like about our society is people not rendering accounts, because in principle, after the debacle at Qatar, FICAFOOT president has to give an account, submit an account to the ministry, tutelage ministry, and then the tutelage ministry reports to the prime minister, then the prime minister reports to the president of the republic.
And the Cameroonian public is supposed to
know, yeah, to come to know what transpired. But unfortunately, there is that lackluster attitude, and people go about it without caring.
I mean, when we talk about scandals in the Cameroon national team, I mean, it's long-lasting. I remember what happened in I think it was 1994.
Yeah,
when school children had to contribute,
and the money is still between Paris and New York.
You can't imagine that. That was the account from a minister, a government minister. That money got missing between Paris and New York.
The money is still on transit, Kilian.
Really?
It's still on transit.
And there was no consequence.
Okay, let me say so. You know, Mr. Kilian, Zabo Elvis, it's always good. The problem we have, especially in Africa, but many African countries today have realized that they need to valorize talents. The problem we have, especially in our Cameroon context, that we are reducing, that we are focusing. It's because the Cameroon context, we don't valorize talents, and those who are always given the responsibility to manage some certain affairs don't give accountability. That is the problem that we have. If you look at the scandals in the Cameroon national team, it's very important to say it's appalling. It's too much. The problem is, we're even talking of the 1990. This, with the surprises that we have seen in this present World Cup, which is going on in Qatar, many African countries could have taken this World Cup.
Yes.
Yeah. Many African countries would have taken this World Cup. I want to admire a country like Japan. Look at the Japanese national team. Look at, you saw a youthful team of 17, 18, 19 to 22. Now look at the youthful team, the context of the team, that the Cameroonian team that played on.
Okay, this is an image that has been sent by a viewer. Just leave the image on screen like that. Let me read the message that the viewer has sent. He said, this is a Moroccan supporting the Senegal. He first of all said, your panelists are not saying the truth. The guy who made the speech wasn't the captain of the team. This is a Moroccan supporting the Senegalese team, but no one talks about it. But we focus a lot on what a single player says. Agbo from Yaoundé. See the picture of the Moroccan supporting the Senegalese team.
Mr. Boevis, there is nothing there that shows us that it is a Moroccan. That is the first thing. If you want to, we are not saying that a Moroccan cannot support a Senegalese team, but we are saying that at the level of which the Africans were behind the Senegalese, the Moroccan team, it was pure hypocrisy for the person that was given the lead for him to speak on behalf of the Moroccan team. Who damn cares if it is a captain or not? What is the person what is the person, the television who sent the message? What is he trying to? No, let me go to the end of my logic.
Okay, you guys should learn. Let me.
That is why
I will have to.
Yeah, exactly. That is why I said it has always been a discrimination between the Maghrebian Africa and the Sub-Saharan Africa. It is no news to anybody. I even went ahead to bring thesis or to bring findings, calling names like Sheikh Anta Diop with their works. I even went ahead to say that we, the Africans of the Sub-Saharan, we love the Moroccan team. So it's not a matter of us coming on to continue the debate to see if the Moroccans how many Moroccans were supporting Senegal. We've seen maybe those of Croatia supporting Brazilians. We have such fans. Maybe you can have a player in a particular team which you love that player and you decide to align yourself with that player. Yesterday, when the defeat came, Croatia, Brazil, many people made mention of the famous Croatian player. Most Cameroonians found themselves in the Croatian team because of the Croatian player.
You know, when Cameroon was playing against Brazil, there was one fan who was wearing the Brazilian shirt,
and that's a Cameroonian.
Yes, and then when Cameroon scored, she simply removed the shirt and then
exactly
was wearing the Cameroon.
Just a minute. Agbo may be wrong or right in his
In his
observation. But I want to think that if that player, the Moroccan player who granted the interview after their qualification, after they defeated Spain, if he had mentioned Africa, that controversy would not have come up.
Correct.
How came he knew or he knows that they are represented, one of the 5 African teams in the competition? He dedicates the victory to his countrymen, he dedicates the victory to the Muslims and to the Arab world, and then he forgets about Africa.
The continent.
The continent.
Where he comes
I mean, the continent that is behind them, because Morocco is the only team that is still in competition as at now.
It is because,
let's not over chastise this player, because I mean, football is passion, and sometimes, like I said before, he might have misspoke.
You're right.
I remember when Samuel Eto'o refused taking the flag of this country from
2014, to Brazil,
and then he was going to represent which country?
Exactly.
So there are certain actions that people, because of the passion, and I want to believe that that particular player is a devout Muslim, and that's why the first thing that came to his mind
is his faith.
Is his faith.
Good, that is what I wanted to add. It's a matter of education.
Yes,
exactly.
Okay, let me read this message. Greetings to you all in the studio. The only African team left in Qatar is France. Morocco is not an African team. They have never considered themselves as that. So I pray for Portugal to beat Morocco. Manfred in Douala.
I think we shouldn't get to that level, right?
I think Morocco should
there is one thing I want us to get this. When we come to a panel like this, it's not like
creating
creating division or what. No, I don't like that, because when I spoke and said we telling a lie, you don't tell people that telling a lie. No, please. So is it factual that a player made a pronouncement? Yes. Was it correct? No. Point.
Yes. So we are standing behind our African representative today as they play the quarterfinal in Ngantcha to move to the semi-final. Of course, maybe because I'm wearing red today, I just hope that probably too.
I was just going to add that, because that viewer who is praying that Portugal beats Morocco, probably he doesn't know that Africa has 5 representatives today because Cameroon got to the quarterfinal. Exactly. So if Morocco can beat Portugal, there's a likelihood that Africa will get more.
It's not even likely.
Exactly.
The next World Cup,
in
which they will be holding in the United States, 48
and Africa has 9 places.
Africa automatically has 9 places.
Of course, people can say things out of anger. The fact that not necessarily.
No, because it's like he was not because we saw that the first 2 matches, the captain that we knew in the Cameroon team was not the captain. Was not the one who captained the team of the first 2 matches that we played. Even when he entered, he was not given the captain the band. So each coach knows who is the captain of a particular match. So the televiewer is in bad faith. He cannot tell us that the Moroccan coach could allow a player of such magnitude to take the rostrum of which he was not given the mantle.
Let me conclude on that. What the prince is saying, players, when they leave the pitch, sometimes the coach already could have delegated the player to say, okay, you are the one to talk to the press. But the pressmen, they approach maybe several players, 1 or 2, and they get their impressions. The player might not have been speaking the mind of the entire team. And that is why when the coach came behind, he might have already heard of the echoes of the fact that his player did not dedicate that victory to the entire continent, which the coach himself saw supporting them to come out with a victory in that match. And that's why he said they want to fly the flag of Africa higher than the other teams that
he used we. in the language he used, he was given the mantle to speak.
Okay, time for us to get to the topic proper. Football-related altercations, a threat to African unity. That is our topic of the day. Of course, the topics are really linked. You can send in your own contributions by using the number you find on your screen to tell us how we can use football to promote African unity. You can send us the message on WhatsApp. You can also send us the message on SMS, or send us a picture which you think we can use to illustrate what you are talking about. But let us now get to our missions and see our producer Romuald to prepare an excerpt of the clash between Samuel Eto'o and an Algerian YouTuber, so that together we can take a look at it again and come back for analysis, because it is related to the topic we are handling.
Cuando el partido entre Brasil y Corea estaba por terminar, Samuel Eto'o salió del estadio y algunos aficionados lo abordaron. Apareció un hombre que lo estaba grabando. Hubo una discusión y de pronto la leyenda del fútbol africano y embajador del Mundial de Qatar perdió la cabeza. Se le fue encima y poco después de que le quitaron la cámara a esta persona, Eto'o lo agredió con una peligrosa patada, al parecer entre el pecho y la cabeza.
Of course, too, I think you should also post a picture of the apology which Samuel Eto'o wrote an apology to apologize after this clash with an Algerian YouTuber. The Algerians have not been able to swallow, you know, they have not been able to understand that football is just a game, and sometimes another team has to lose and the other team has to win. After Cameroon disqualified the team from the World Cup, it has not really been easy. And what was your impression when you saw this image, Ernest?
When I saw this image, the first time I saw it, I was taken aback because Samuel Eto'o is an institution. You permit me say that. He's an icon. He's a citizen of the world. He represents very many things. Because once you have a personality like him who rubs shoulders with world-renowned leaders, Putin and all the like, that action, you know, at times they say the devil is too strong. The devil pushed him to that.
Which devil?
Excuse me. The devil pushed him to that. The circumstantial devil pushed him to that. Or his ego pushed him to that. I felt a little dejected with that act.
But is it understandable that Samuel Eto'o is a human being, and that at one point in time, if you are being pushed to the wall continuously, verbally, the beast in you can come up unconsciously?
Yes, that's what we call in law, what's that legal? Acting. Well, the jurists, they know the correct, the appropriate terminology. So he acted promptly in consonance to what was said to him. But I do well think he ought to have controlled those instincts. Nevertheless, he came back with the apology, because maybe thereafter which he came back to his senses and said, in spite the provocations, he ought to have withheld himself. I want to equally say that if what we are seeing in that video is getting to this extent, it is because CAF and FIFA are not reacting to the after-bleeder palaver. Because all of these things are coming from Bleeder, 29 September 2022. March rather. So the accusations from the Algerians has been continual, with a lot of personal attacks. This is not the first one on the person of Samuel Eto'o. And CAF, who carried out the investigation, and FIFA, they ought to have called to order the Algerian Football Federation. Because
but the YouTuber was not representing the Algerian Football
well,
Federation.
he's not representing, but he has a soft spot for the Algerian team or country. Yes, because
Well,
if I want to believe so, if CAF had intervened and said, okay, we'll put a stop to that, I don't think we could have been where we are today.
No,
Let's get Kenya's perspective.
what was CAF supposed to do? CAF, Algeria protested. I think they wrote a formal protest,
Yeah.
and CAF dismissed it. That's it.
FIFA as well.
And FIFA as well. So I do not think there is nothing more that CAF was supposed to do.
Well, if I'm talking about CAF and FIFA, because it's no hidden secret. The assaults are there on public media and fiscal and verbal assaults. I think writing a letter to tell the Algerian Football Federation, we have noticed that in spite of the decisions arrived at...
I don't think, I mean, these are fans. I don't think that FIFA is going to be reacting to what fans are doing or fans are saying, or CAF is going to be doing
Hey,
that.
Killian, do you remember the hooligans?
They wrote...
Do you remember the hooligans?
No, the CAF judged and validated Cameroon's victory and duly informed the Algerian delegation federation that Cameroon won their match clean and square. So they should stop. And I don't think that federation has continued to complain, except that there is a wave, a sort of wave of people really attacking Cameroonians, for example. Then they could come and I don't know what kind of disciplinary sanctions that. But that YouTuber, I got information that he was evicted from. He was banned from attending other matches.
Let's play
So I
video.
think that was kind of sanction too.
Okay, let me get a comment before I play a video of the YouTuber showing the level of the damage after the clash.
Okay, like Nsah said, between March 29, 2022 till date, the relationship between Algerians and Cameroonians, I mean, those who are passionate about football, has really deteriorated.
Yes.
You understand that when the Algerians played the away game of that final qualifying round in Douala and defeated Cameroon 1-0, there was no noise. We went over to Blida. That last
Second
goal, that is what sparked tension till date. And I would say that, like you said, football sometimes is just, people see it just beyond the game. The coach of the Algerian selection, Jamel Belmadi, himself has not helped the situation. Because after Cameroon's qualification, if you look at the interviews he has granted,
Gassama was there all the time.
he has, there is nothing that talks of fair play. And though the president of the Algerian Football Federation came out to say he has no particular issue with the Cameroon Football Federation, because the accusations that Samuel Eto'o, who is president of Cameroon Football Federation, bought the referee to help, of course, to help Cameroon secure that win. It did not only end there. The Algerians filed protest to FIFA, which was rejected. Cameroon's qualification was maintained. Now, in a build-up to the World Cup, first, when you look at the draw that was done in Doha sometime in June, before the competition came up, if you look at after, if you have watched the video, immediately after the draw was done, you will see some two Algerians who were filming Samuel Eto'o and the coach of the national team, Rigobert, and they were making comments that these are the two who paid referee Gassama to favor Cameroon in the game. And Samuel Eto'o ignored, it's just like Coach Rigobert, the two of them ignored those comments. Now, the Algerians protested for several days in Qatar when Cameroon's flag was hoisted among the 32 teams.
They even approached some Cameroonian football supporters.
Of course, they have been harassing Cameroonian football fans until this recent incident that happened between Samuel Eto'o and the YouTuber. Like Agufo said, Samuel Eto'o is a human being, but now his personality, Samuel Eto'o is a brand, not only in Cameroon, but the world over. He himself said in one interview that if out of the 54 African presidents, if I'm right, he has met at least 40 of them. He has talked with at least 40 of them. I mean, he's talked with renowned world leaders. So somebody of Eto'o's caliber, though being a human, would have, because if you see that video, you see people trying to hold him back. He would have at least retained himself rather than forcing himself forward to hit the YouTuber.
Understanding the pressure Samuel Eto'o has been going through, the fact that he went to bring that cup, in quotes, and of course the early elimination of Cameroon, you know, the pressure within the camp of the Lions, and also the fact that Samuel Eto'o, who is Mr. Clean, wants to ensure that everything is in order, because you know, when you want to bring in a system of transparency, there are always people that want to, you know, come in and cause disorganization. So Samuel Eto'o was involved at every planning phase of the competition. Though we understand too that probably Samuel Eto'o, you know, was faced with pressure and had to react that way, and we should just pardon him.
Well, I think Eto'o in particular, sometimes he doesn't know how to retain his anger. You remember when he headbutted a journalist here?
Philippe.
Yes. So it looks like it's actually part of him, but his personality really counts this time. I think he should understand that, like Ernest was saying, he's an institution. He's an institution not only because of football. He's a brand, and therefore he should be able to manage some of those pressures. You will always get insults. Imagine that the president of this country...
Because if there was a president the world over will be hitting people every day.
Yeah. My own reading on, maybe if you permit, my own reading on this, maybe I will be a bit, sliding a bit with what the other panelists were saying. You know, we are at the verge of building Cameroon, in particular. Though we are talking of Africa, but Cameroon is the topic, the central topic, because we are talking of Samuel Eto'o. We are at the verge of building Cameroon. Now, one of those who think that in building Cameroon is the youth. If a Cameroonian youth behaves this way in Qatar, my brother, look at the image. A youth president of a federation is being held. The crowd holds him, he refuses. The image is very clear.
Okay, just
Mr. Abo, you don't cut me, because this is very, very important. No, because Ernest Akufo had put his candidature to become the Secretary General of the CAF. No, it's very important. So I'm not looking for any nomination in the CAF. He can be appointed tomorrow as the Secretary General of the CAF. Presently now have been an entering, so they have their candidatures. And also, I'm not supporting those theses. I'm looking at a country where we want to build, and we cannot build a country with vandalism. We cannot build a country with vagabonds because they think they have made money. We cannot function that way. Let me tell you, what is the role of a YouTuber? You are a journalist. What's the role of a YouTuber? What is the role of a YouTuber? These are journalists. What's the role of it?
Imagine that.
Now I want to ask you, but there's a senior journalist on the platform. Did this YouTuber achieve his objectives?
Of course.
Good. He did. So no, please.
Imagine, Prince, that you are coming out of the stadium,
yes,
and then someone, after your team has been disqualified, and after you qualified legally for a competition, and someone is just very close to your friend and say, "How much do you pay Gassama? How much do you pay Gassama?"
I will say thank you, sir.
He just made a very important point.
Yes.
Did the YouTuber
achieve his objective?
He did. He created a scandal. The video is trending online. He's making money from that.
What you people are doing in Cameroon is being followed by the whole world. They have studied Eto'o very well, and they knew that is what was going to happen.
Let's watch a video of the YouTuber to see the level of. Let me explain his own version of the story. I think he's speaking in Arab, but we just want to see the damage that was caused to his camera after the clash.
راكم دايرين لاباس غاية ان شاء الله نكون بخير. راني في مركز الشرطه عادي تحقيق في الموضوع هذا. الفيديو اللي سمعته الوالد على بالي تاثر. اول شيء دابس مع ايطو صامويل. راح تقولوا كيف ايطو صامويل؟ والله دابس مع ايطو صامويل. شوفوا والله غير دابس مع ايطو صامويل اللي كان معاه. هو ضربني واللي كان معاه دفعني وهذا كان قدم فيه بلاغ وهرس لي الكاميرا. كنت مصور فيه نسال فيه على قاسامه. قلت له كيفاش قاسامه ما قاسامه، وقدمت رشوة تقلق وضربني هرس لي كاميرتي.
One of the reasons why I brought up these topics today because the African Championship Shan will be coming up next year. I think it's between January and February. And of course it's going to be in Algeria, and we are taking a look at how football related altercations can be a threat to African unity, especially at the time too. You know that a Cameroonian footballer died in Algeria under very, very unclear circumstances. So let's now look at the solutions. What do we need to do to stop this from happening?
I think first things first, football is a game, right? It's leisure, but beyond being leisure, it has risen to a position, to a degree where there are other things behind football. Politicians have hijacked it in a country because when you meet them during the holiday camps, you see they want to organize holiday tournaments. The tournament of this, he has put in 1 million, 2 million, 500,000 francs, just because he feels that through that he can canvass for votes. Beyond that, football brings about unity, because apart from the 22 players who are on the pitch, there are more than 1,000 times the number of people watching at the performance, which means they are in unison. But if today we begin to see the antagonism, the animosity, the hate that is getting into football, it means that football may be henceforth will no more be played on the pitches but in offices. God forbid. What we've seen of recent, and I like you brought up that topic, Elvis, because in the tabloids which were published this week somewhere, a tabloid said the Algerians, no, let me not misquote, but it was said on one of the tabloids that Eto'o risked being assassinated. Yes. So when I read that headline, I said to myself, but this is an exaggeration. Well, I didn't get to read the article per se, but we shouldn't take anything for granted, because such declarations, we don't know how the person got there. I want to say it's high time the AU looks into it and sees what position they should give to sports, and then more particularly football, because it's a crowd-pulling sports game. We saw when we had AFCON in Cameroon, politicians came from all over, stars came from all over to converge because people wanted to be together. But if suddenly it is taking a different turn, we better make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah, just to say that, Mr. Bo Elvis, maybe, yes, the football differences, arguments, shoutings, fightings, tussle, insults can be a threat to African unity. It can. With what happened in Qatar between Samuel Eto'o and the YouTuber can go a long way to cause diplomatic problems, relations between Cameroon and Algeria. Recently, during what we need to also make mention is that during the AFCON in Cameroon, we saw Côte d'Ivoire and Cameroon. We saw insults, especially on the social media, between of which Cameroonians and Ivorians have always been wild. The progress of Ivorians had always been a problem of Cameroonians. We saw, especially during the crisis of 2008, in Côte d'Ivoire, we saw how Cameroonians were very implicated, especially those who were, most Cameroonians were even pro Bagbo, and seeing how to even help solve the problems in Côte d'Ivoire. So football can really be a threat. Football disagreements or arguments can really be a threat to African unity. Why? Because another reason is because we realize that football has become a strong factor that unites a people. Look at the day Cameroon was playing with Brazil. I myself in Yaoundé, I heard shouts from Bamenda because they walk. It might be fault. I know that. I know that many of your televiewers will not be happy. I'm really happy with what I'm saying, but it's the truth. It needs to be said. Even in Boya, we heard the shouts. So we are saying that football is a big uniting factor because politicians, it's been true politicians, they have understood. That's why you see even governments put a lot of money in football. 4-point-something billion were given to the Cameroon government, get 4-point-something billion to the Cameroon national team. And each of the player had a package of 60 million. Look at the teachers are crying every day in Cameroon. How many billion is to be given to the teachers? But they take 4-point-something billion to give to a small group of people. The coach himself had 120 million. But look at the suffering teachers who teach students in class. So just to make you to understand that the politicians have attached too much they have attached too much importance to football, and they have seen that football can be a factor where they can communicate to the people. So now, for us having altercations maybe between us, the Africans, because of football, it's really a threat. So we need to, for example, you make mention of Shan, and the Shan is to take place where in Algeria. It's to take place in Algeria. So we think that it's high time even the politicians themselves, those that have taken the mantle to govern football, to be people of high moral standards, high integrity. It's not because somebody has made money, billions, that will give you a position where you can destroy the unity of a people. It's my opinion, and that's the way I think. I always, when I look at maybe the activities maybe of Samuel Eto'o, at times I usually reflect on the book which is being written by one of your colleagues, Jean-Bruno Tani, to programmed to fail. We should be careful.
You know, I was in Egypt the other day. Each taxi I took, the taximan will always ask me where I come from. And at the mention of the name Cameroon, oh, Samuel Eto'o, oh, Roger Miller. And then they get angry that Cameroon beat them some time ago. They get angry, but in a friendly manner.
Yeah.
I think that's how it should be.
Exactly.
What worries me is when these football arguments, when they stay for far too long.
Yeah.
That's what worries me. But because if we are watching the same match and you are supporting maybe one team, I'm supporting the other, the likelihoods that we can even exchange blows is very high. But it should end at that. It should end at that. So like you said, I think the political class should begin to look carefully into how football can be used to build. I remember in 1990, when Cameroon had that glorious performance at the World Cup, it averted troubles in this country.
Too much
because it was the height of political activism in Cameroon.
Correct.
It saved Cameroon from, from political chaos. So I think football is an area where if you don't take care, it could actually destroy the unity of a continent. But I think that the African unity, the idea of bringing African peoples together actually resides in doing other things. Building routes, for example, building railways that connect people,
eliminating
barriers and all of those things. It's incredible that you live here, you are going to Equatorial Guinea, you need a visa, you are going to Gabon, you need a visa. What is all that? You go to Europe with you move from France to Norway.
We have 26 countries in Schengen. You can imagine how huge it is. If you have maybe a Schengen visa, that is a Schengen visa. For example, you travel to France, you can leave France to Belgium, you can leave France to Italy, which is a neighboring country. You can leave to Germany and many of these 26 countries in Europe because of the Schengen visa. So I believe that maybe before you exactly, I believe that it's high time that maybe we also look at sports in that way, because sports, I love the way some people put it, is a bonanza. The people call it football bonanza. It's a fiesta. It's a game of fair play. It's a game of jubilation. It's a game of enjoyment. And after the end of, look at the match between Brazil and Croatia yesterday, the emotions were there, but at the end, the players they embrace each other. That is the bonanza of football. Okay, let's get the perspective.
Bo Elvis, I need not remind you that football is the only political party
where everybody
Cameroon, let me talk at the level of Cameroon, where everybody belongs. The national team, for example.
It's a ruling party.
That is the ruling, let me put it the ruling party. Because when it comes to football, when Cameroon is playing, Kylian may belong to party X, you belong to party Y, he belongs to party K, but once it comes to the national team, you sit on the same table and you focus on the match till it comes to the end. After that, you can begin to disagree on your political opinions. And that is why he was mentioning Bamenda and Boya. He didn't want to go deep into a lot of people celebrating the bushes when Abubakar scored against Brazil. I mean, that is the passion about, that's the passion in football. Now, you are talking of Algeria hosting Shan in 2-3 months to come. Cameroon will be part of that competition. I'm imagining a scenario where Cameroon has to face Algeria in the competition, and you have Algerian fans and you have Cameroonian fans. What is going to be the likely outcome if this tension that is currently going on between the two countries does not subside? Somebody opined that the Minister of External Relations would have called the Algerian ambassador to Cameroon. Now we are at the level of diplomacy. It's not just at the level of football fans or the two football teams. It involves the two nations, the citizens of the two nations. So if we are talking about what solutions to calm down some of this, what we need to do to bury some of these tensions, some of these altercations, I think that there is need for those in the governing class to talk, to sit together. We've emphasized so much on the fact that football is just a game, but many as the emotions in those who support, the emotions in those who support football is just beyond, it's beyond just the round figure you're seeing.
Let me take some messages, Derek, and then I get back to you.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I think Eto'o did what was needed. At that time, the Algerians have really tarnished Mr. Eto'o's image for quite some time now, that he could no longer handle it and really needed to do that. I hope with this act, the Algerians will feel ashamed and have some respect for Eto'o right now.
No, I don't think that that one is correct. I believe that Eto'o knows what to do if he's being assaulted. I believe that we have competent courts in the world for him to maybe write a complaint against such acts. Though we condemn them, but recently we Mr.
Do you agree with me that verbal assault sometimes can be more than physical assault?
No, the issue is, Mr. Bo, we should condemn with the last energy the repulsive nature of Samuel Eto'o.
But even Samuel Eto'o himself has condemned it. He has condemned his repulsive nature.
No, what I did not like in his letter of apology was because he tried to justify. Yes, it did not call for a room for him to justify anything. He is a national figure and is an icon of the world. An icon of the world. So
maybe by what he did, is it not like endangering the life of more Cameroonians?
Exactly.
Because a few days back, a video surfaced, though that could not be ascertained, a video surfaced on social media showing people who were attacked, one with a cut, with a hand which had a cut, and it was that immediately after Eto'o attacked the Algerian YouTuber, there were some Cameroonians in Algeria who were attacked, which I don't think that's the case. But that would have happened, which might have resulted from the action which
because,
took.
of course, you see, the topic, why I came up with this topic today is because, of course, we are looking at Algeria and Cameroon.
Exactly.
But in the ongoing clash, there are some other citizens of other countries that are supporting Cameroon.
That's why we need to, exactly. Mr. Bowen, that's why we need to tell the Africans that, especially the African leaders, that they should not fall into that trap. How do you be, you as a leader, which message do you pass to the public? If you as a leader, you have been attacked and you retaliate, we've seen in France recently where a citizen slapped the French president. The French president did not react, but the competent courts did their job. So we think that as leaders, we are to show good example. Let me tell you something. Samuel Eto'o fell into the trap. If Samuel Eto'o would have stayed calm in that incident, he would have come up big in it today.
Let me take
so Samuel Eto'o's fans should advise him for him to calm down in it. And all of us we might
that
get
animal,
angry.
that animal
Even Samuel Eto'o in his outing, his communique, he advised himself to.
Mr. Bowen, the fans of Eto'o are exaggerating. They are, especially those that they call les Eto'o moutons. Sheepgoat Eto'o fans, they are exaggerating. I know that those are some of them who are writing.
But they have a right to their opinion. They have a right to
the
support.
opinion is not true. How can we build the African unity?
Two wrongs do not make
Okay,
How can we
please,
build
let me
the
get some
African
messages.
unity? How can we build the African unity? I'll learn from there.
Yeah.
How can we build the African unity when we promote vandalism?
Let me take some of the messages. I don't blame Cameroon for saying that Anglophones is a problem. Even on TV, Anglophones especially still playing around the truth than making the truth open for people to change. They really need to read the Bible, please. I would like to greet the man in the traditional attire. I don't understand how to link it to this.
We need to tell them.
From Douala.
I understand what he's saying.
Okay,
the truth that we need to tell them that we want unity. We want unity in Cameroon. We don't want a division. That is what we want.
Okay, time for me to let me get to you. I think my phone is so full of messages now. Of course, it's indicating that I cannot read any message anymore because my phone is full. So, Eric, your reaction to, your concluding remarks, because in 5 minutes we are going to be ending the show.
I think, like I was saying, we will continue to look at sports and football in particular as a sector which should instead bring people together than dividing them. What has happened, because I think that in the history of African football, we've not had such tension the way we've had between Algeria and Cameroon of recent. Like I was saying, the authorities in place, the leaders of the two nations, need to come in, because if things go beyond this level, we can start imagining a situation where people will lose their lives because of a football match that a team won and another lost, and then refused to accept defeat. The person who had the opinion that the Minister of External Relations should summon the Algerian ambassador to Yaoundé, if there is one, I think I buy that opinion.
And maybe the Minister of External Relations in Nigeria should
Of course, there need to be talks on both sides so that we can work towards putting an end to this altercation, so that when the competition which we are looking forward to in January, that's the African Nations Championship, starts, we won't be having such tension, because already at that moment there are some Cameroonian football fans who would have loved to travel to Algeria, but fearing for their faith, they may not eventually go for the competition. For the team and the officials, you will say that they will have the needed security and protection when they go for the competition. But you, just a normal fan who is just going to maybe relax and then watch the competition, what becomes of you if you are attacked somewhere because you are Cameroonian? I was talking the other day with my friend who is in Germany, and he says he has come across a number of Algerians, and each time they find out where he comes from, they start saying, so you are part of those who bought the referee to qualify Cameroon for the World Cup. You see the extent to which what happened in Bleeder has gone. So I think that it is time.
No, wait. You see what I mean?
It looks like he thinks that you endorsed what
social media says.
It is not Prince Pierre. It was an advice that I was given that the Eto'o fans, as being said on social media, should advise him to calm down. That was what I was saying. And that on social media, they have given them a name, Les Eto'o, Mouton. It is everywhere. It's not Prince Pierre that created. So in a nutshell, what I will try to say is that in the middle of all this, what I got, since we were talking,
try to say something that to appease the Eto'o fans then.
You
can disagree with them without them making.
To appease them, they should tell Samuel Eto'o to when he wants to recruit at the level of the General Secretariat of FECAFOOT, he should include a revered Cameroonian who masters the 2 languages in communication.
Like who?
Like
Akufo.
Akufo Enes. It's very important because the letter that was written to Inter Milan, the translation in English
was horrible.
And it is as a please, the facts are very clear. It is as a result of all this what we are happening. We have Cameroonians who are competent, which we can blend. Even if we think that the boss should be maybe somebody from the French subsystem of education, we should also maybe have somebody to go along with him from the English subsystem of education experts. So that such things should not repeat themselves again. A country like Cameroon should not write a letter to an international football federation with such errors.
Our time is up. Our time is up. Our time is up. Our time is up, please. And then you have 1 minute to land.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say thank you for Prince
for recommending you.
Nonetheless, it was a nice discussion, and you see, when we come here, it's not like we're coming to impose certain ideas on people. It's just our own small way of building Cameroon. You get the point? Yes, because Prince mistakenly used the word. I will withdraw it for him. Yes, those supporters are not sheepish. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure being on the panel with
Killian. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Elvis. Morocco is the last man standing. And
we must throw our weight behind.
I think that the entire Africa should throw their weight behind Morocco.
Thank you.
And it will make history. The first African team to sail through with an African coach. I would think that Coach Walid Redraghi, who has been there for barely 2 months, he was appointed in September, barely 2-3 months, and is close to making history, reaching the semi-finals. We'll pray that they should be able to beat Portugal in the next 1 or 30 minutes when the match starts.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And in the next 1 or 30 minutes, at exactly 4:30 Cameroon time, I'm going to be having an interview with Barrister Romuald. As you know, he is the legal mind that has taken some separatist leaders in the United States to court. I'll be having an interview with him to grill him to explain the reason behind the legal cases against separatists abroad. Of course, you have to choose between watching the Morocco versus Portugal match and this special interview which I'll be granting Barrister Romuald Nsah. I want to thank you so much, Prince Edgard, for coming, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come. I want to thank you to Nsah. I I want to thank you, my senior colleague, Ngalaki and Jim Tom.
Waiting for the next invitation.
Okay, and I want to thank you so much
Then
to
Eric, you're always using Eric.
then Eric. And let me conclude by saying this, which I wrote before the start of the show. Nothing unites like football. During football fiesta, our differences are forgotten, political and religious divide are kept aside, and enemies hug themselves. While watching football, even disdain for our leaders is forgotten, and even those who throw bombs may not remember their hiding places. Our studio manager today was Seisha Beolo. The program was produced by Romuald and Ngantcha with the coordination of Kum Leonard and the supervision of Brian Tambe. I am Bo Elvis, thanking you for watching. Have a wonderful day and see you next week, God willing. Bye-bye.